Good morning, guys. Good day, good evening, wherever you're watching this from. Once again, it's Elevated Insights, your boy Blunt Society, and today we've got a special guest for you, all the way from South Africa, man. It's Jomanji Genetics. Jomanji, how are you, brother?
What's up, man? How you doing? I'm good. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, I'm feeling amazing. It's a huya daha, you know what I'm saying? So I'm
Yeah, I
feeling
love
great.
that. Kuyataka is the best word, man. Best way to greet anyone.
Yeah, man. Huya daha, everybody. Huya daha to everybody that's watching, man. So, Jomanji, without wasting any further time, can you just introduce us to you, to us. I know that you are a breeder and a geneticist, and you got beans, some of the best beans around, especially some autos. But without really just stealing the food from your mouth, you know what I'm saying? Can you just chop it down to us?
All right, yeah. So, sure. I'm a qualified horticulturist. I fell in love with weed when at a young age, and when my parents asked me what I wanted to study, I was like, well, why not horticulture, right? Um, so yeah, man, I started studying horticulture, started working in environmental society, like rehabilitating things. And then, funny enough, in 2019, Wesley from Lost in Africa Cannabis approached me, and I did a little collab with him, and that's how my whole breeding adventure started. He introduced me to the autos. I fell in love with them because they're so low maintenance. There's no more 10 hours a day in my grow room pulling leaves and things. It's just my whole life changed once I was introduced to autos.
So, can you tell us about the first time in your life that you ever came across cannabis?
I was standard six, so I think that's grade eight, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, eighth grade.
It was the July school holidays, like those first 3 week holidays, I think June, July, somewhere around there. I was in boarding school. Me and the homies linked up on top of Rosebank Mall, and we had some blunt, and we emptied a big cigar, and we smoked it, and we had a fucking good time, man.
Amazing. Well, to think that you really smoked out of a cigar, I think that makes it a very bougie smoke because a lot of people be saying, "Yeah, I use newspaper." You know what I'm saying? We never had rolling paper. I'd use newspaper, bro.
Yeah,
No,
no, it
very
was actually
beautiful.
my homie that organized everything. I just was there. I was lucky enough to be there.
And from that point, do you remember when it was that you started like growing your first ever bean, your first seed?
Yeah, so not long after that, I actually connected with a local Rastafarian guy in my community, and I became really good friends with him. We've been friends now for about 20 years. Um, he gave me some really nice beans that he'd organized from Holland. I think it was a sour diesel back then, and that was my first time planting some seeds. And I did it in a basement. I had a secret basement in my house that no one knew about. I got some HPS lights and some fans and everything, and yeah, it was my first grow in a basement.
Wow, amazing. And a lot of people they usually grow in the basements. I mean, even these indoor grows, yeah, like they're usually like basement grows around the world. Like the English guys, they're just going in the basement. So, just that gorilla aspect and that hidden aspect of growing marijuana, I think that's what has taken the scientific game of the seeds and even the strains, to like 1,000%, as opposed to people that grow maize like out there right in front of the field.
Yeah, look, we've had to move around in the, let's call it, the dark areas of society. Cannabis was not always as socially as approved as it is now in our modern society. But the laws, I think that's the main reason we do these things. We grow in basements and secret places because we don't want to go to jail. Yeah.
Yeah, facts, facts, facts. Nah, nah, you really dropping some dimes on us. So, thank you very much for that intro. Now I really got some questions that I want to know about autos. Can you just share the inspiration behind the focus of breeding auto flowers? Can you just let me know, like, how you started breeding auto flowers, especially for the South African environment? How did you get into it? Why did you get into it? You did say that you don't like defoliating too much. You want something with low maintenance, but can you just give us an overall around as to, like, why autos? why focus on autos and why autos in South Africa?
All right, yeah. Specifically, autos in South Africa. What actually pushed me mostly in the direction was, 4 or 5 years ago, Eskom was not really a reliable power source for anyone, and a lot of growers were experiencing challenges, in this environment with not having lights throughout the right periods of time. So I decided, an auto can grow under any light conditions. It doesn't have to have a specific photo period time. So I decided to move to the autos because I thought, like, this is going to help South Africa, specifically concerning our situation with ESCOM.
That's facts because when I think about it, when I think about it, a lot of people they don't actually realize how the autoflower does not necessarily need the light constraints that photoperiods have. And when I ran autos, I also found out that not only the light constraints that you have, like for example with the photoperiods, you need to first veg it out under like 18 hours of light. And when I told a lot of people this, especially the students that I have, they did not actually catch on to, they don't understand the concept of 18 hours out of 24 hours a light has to be on onto a plant. And with autos, can you just maybe explain further, like, how, why are they so low maintenance? Why are they not as finicky as these photos? What's this thing with the light? Because a lot of people don't really understand.
Okay, cool. So yeah, like if you are a photo period grower, and you've invested a lot of money, let's say you've got a nice big greenhouse or a nice big setup, it cost you like a couple grand or whatever, you don't really have time to mess around. So with the photo periods, like if Escom plays games with you, it's going to mess your complete crop up. They could homie, they could not flower properly. Whatever challenges you might experience with those light durations could affect your plants and then affect your crop, which then affects your income or however you're doing it. So yeah, man, the autos they don't care for light. Like you can give them whatever amount of light you want to, and they're gonna grow regardless. And then
That's very
they just grow faster. Like you can get more. Like with the photo periods in an indoor environment with proper planning, you could probably get 3 good harvests a year. But with the auto
yes,
flowers and proper planning, you can get 4 really good harvests a year.
yes, because you're basically just bouncing it out, like every 3 months. Basically, you can have a cycle, right?
Yes, that's correct. You can get more cycles in if you're doing it that way. I mean, there's so many wonderful ways to grow weed. You don't have to do cycles. You can always do sea of green. Like just keep adding to your grow so that eventually you keep harvesting, and then it's a perpetual system that lasts forever.
Yes, perpetual harvests are very good, especially for us home growers, because there's always this thing of, traditionally speaking, um, people assume, oh, this is a seasonal plant, just like, oh, we only plant like in spring and then in summer, things like that. People assume that you can only have one season when you're growing. And a lot of people, they really didn't know. And by a lot of people, I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm really talking about the vast majority of people that are not growers like we are growers, but people that also want to get into growing cannabis, because a lot of people, they have gardens back at home where they have their tomatoes and their chilies, and some might want to get into growing cannabis, but they do not know where to start, and they believe that auto flowers are really like some of the easiest to jump into and to transition yourself into a grower. So can you just talk to us more about when you're breeding these autos, what traits are you specifically looking for?
Okay, yeah. It all starts with basic things like you want the right smells. You want the right smell on the stem. You want the right smell on the flowers. Me personally, I love fruity flavors. So like anything citrus, anything grape, anything banana. I thoroughly enjoy them. They're just nice to smoke as well. They don't taste like normal. They just taste better. um, yeah, so the fruity things are what I go for. I also love abundant, thick nugs. Like, who doesn't like big buds, right? We
Yes.
all like big buds. So yeah, I'm looking for the best from the start. So I've decided to just use the best from the start. So I will look for award-winning genetics, either from Ethos or Mephisto, or whoever's winning the latest cannabis cups in America, something like that. And then I will look at what strain won, and then I will start with those strains. I figure if you start with the best, then you're already 1 foot ahead.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
good. And also on that topic, just being in South Africa, because I do not know how many strains are actually growing wild in South Africa, but the environmental conditions, I know they're a very big thing when it comes to growing or breeding. So, how did you work your lines around the environmental climate or the conditions, the weather conditions around South Africa for those who are going to be growing maybe in a greenhouse or outdoor? How did you work your strains around to cater to the environment of South Africa?
Okay, yeah. So what I will do is the first time I breed a strain here in South Africa, I do it in an outdoor environment. I don't want to give him an indoor environment. He needs to get used to our environmental conditions, our temperatures, just everything that it's going to be growing in. So best is to breed it inside that environment. Do not breed it in a pampered environment. You gotta. So with plants, they got to go through a process called hardening off. Like any plant, like if you move it from an indoor environment or to an outdoor environment, it needs to go through a hardening off process. So I figured, why not just start the seeds in that hardened off environment instead of having to take them through that process.
So now, a lot of people might ask, especially a lot of breeders are very interested in autos because I remember when I jumped into cultivating, a lot of the people that I was cultivating for had a very bad stigma towards autoflowers, and they were saying, what, you want to grow autos? Man, that means you're not really gonna get any type of yield, bro. You know what I'm saying? And there's this stigma around autos. You're growing autos. They're gonna flower on you in the first 5 days. So can you just talk about just stabilizing these strains and ensuring that people always have gas? Because I've grown some Jomanji juice on my last run. I had some Jomanji juice growing, which has got the orange banana terp. I really love it. It's like a smoothie from Kauai, basically a banana orange smoothie. So the terps are really out of this world. But I had never grown it, and I was not sure when to expect it to start flowering, how long the veg works. So for a breeder, how would you know when the transitions are? Especially when you want to maybe reverse or self a strain that you like. How do you really lock in those things? Because autos just sometimes they flower when they want. They're so finicky sometimes. So
Okay, yeah, I don't really experience those issues because I start with top class genetics. If I'm gonna go and buy the latest best strain, it's already stabilized. It's probably like an F45 version of that cross. They've been working on it for a couple of years. So
yeah.
when I buy that, it's already stable. So all I need to ensure is that I get more stability into it. Now, there's a model called, I think it's the Hardy Weinberg model, equilibrium model for breeding. It's like a blueprint for how to breed, and it explains to you what's going to happen, like how the mother's traits or the father's traits are going to blend, and how you're going to get a different trait that sometimes arrives as well. So what we do is we use this Hardy Weinberg equilibrium model for our breeding to ensure that we have more stability within our line. However, with autoflowers, it is impossible to eliminate all of certain character traits. So even if you go to like the best company in the world right now and you buy 100 autoflower seeds from them, 90 of them will grow the same and 10 will grow different.
Yeah,
We cannot. It is physically impossible for us as breeders to eliminate that last 10% that within the genetic pool. It's just in an autoflower that I don't think it'll ever happen that we'll get to that stage where it will be 100% the same plant every time you plant a seed. Unfortunately, I just don't think our science is there yet.
yeah. There's still a lot of genetic variation when it comes to any type of seed. Like you're saying that our science is not there. It's not possible to do seed breeding, and every single seed, even if you have 1,000, will come out exactly like the other one.
Yeah, look, they're trying. I mean, the guys at Atami in Holland are doing amazing things with their autos. They're really getting them to a massive size. I'm really impressed with what they're doing. But, even them, they're still struggling to get that crop to a state where you can, like, let's say you're a big farmer and you want to grow one strain. That's what you do. Unfortunately, at this point in time, autoflowers is not going to work for someone like that.
Yeah,
Um, unless you want to grow two strains. If you want to grow two strains from the same crop, then autoflowers is going to be perfect for you. You're going to get more
yeah.
variety. You're going to get different flavors. Yeah, but
That's exactly.
unfortunately, yeah, we haven't figured out how to get rid of that last 10% in the gene pool, and it's always going to go. But that makes it fun, right? So
Yeah,
for a breeder, we actually want that last 10%. We look for that last 10% because in that last 10% is where we find our unicorns, our
yeah.
new strains, something completely different, never been released before. That occurs within that 10%. So the 10% has value and problems at the same time.
Yes. I love how you talk about the 10% because I do know that you also breed photos as well as you breed autos. So between the two, what differences in breeding do you find yourself like with the pros and cons? Like what do you find yourself struggling with when you're doing photos and you're like, well, if I was doing autos, I wouldn't be facing this problem, and vice versa.
Yeah, so let me just give you one example of a problem I experienced recently. I was breeding in winter, and right at the end of winter, we got a very cold snap come past, black frost, and just wiped out my entire crop.
Oh,
Well, it didn't wipe out the whole crop, but it wiped out the male donor. The male donor just died. So that's 4 months of my life I wasted trying to breed more photoperiods, and a couple grand I wasted. And yeah, so for me, I like the autos. They move fast, everything happens quickly. I'm never bored. I'm always excited to see what's happening. Like every time you go inside your growing environment, it's a new environment. It's completely
yeah,
different than it was the day before.
yeah.
And it just keeps things exciting for me.
So I have a question that a lot of people ask when it comes to autos, and the question is, should you top autos?
No. All right. So with an auto flower, let's just take you through a basic process. An autoflower goes from seed to harvest in 85 to 90 days. So that means you plant your seed in a final home. You germinate it and you plant it in its final home and you leave it there and it grows there. There's no topping, there's no pruning, there's no LST, there's no defoliating. The reason for this is autos their cells develop at such a fast rate. They're basically doubling on a daily basis. And if the plant experiences any stress, any form of stress, whether it's topping, LSD, defoliating, transplanting, any form of stress, for that plant in those 90 days will then minimize the yield that that plant can give you. So the whole secret to an auto is to germinate it, to plant it in its final home and to grow it. To just let
Yeah,
it do its magic. The more you play with it, the more you fucking it up essentially. Sorry for my French, but this is what it is. Leave the thing alone. Plant it and give it water, give it love, play it some music, whatever you need to do, but just don't touch it. And I
yeah,
know that's hard. I know that's so hard because even myself, like there's therapy involved in a growing environment. Like sometimes you need to spend a couple hours in there, just doing things. It's kind of like a form of meditation. So I get why growers love doing it. But the thing is, if you want to do autos, you got to understand that we've eliminated all of the maintenance essentially from that growing environment. All you need to do is give it food and water
Yeah.
and let it do its magic, and it's difficult. And that's, I think, why people are struggling. Like we buy a seed and let's go get on the internet, let's learn all about growing cannabis. Oh yeah, we need to shape it and top it and drill a screw in it and whatever the hell the guys are saying. And yeah, all that stuff works like magic if you're growing a photoperiod. I mean, that's
Yeah.
exactly what you have to do when you're growing a photoperiod. You have to top
Yeah.
it. You have to shape it. You have to transplant it every now and then into a bigger bag.
Yeah.
You create stress for it so that it grows better.
Yeah.
But just, unfortunately, it's the exact opposite with an auto. An auto just wants a relaxing, dialed in environment. That's it.
So, talking more about just how to grow autos, growing autos as well, is there a specific size bucket that's like the perfect size for growing autos?
Okay, so I'm going to say there's a minimum size bucket. If you're growing in an indoor environment, you have to use at least a 10-liter pot to get about 100 grams out of that plant. Between 100, 150, sometimes up to 175, depending on the strain and your light and your environment and all those things. But the more dialed in your place can be, the bigger your yield is going to be. I've pulled 175 grams off of a 10-liter pot.
Hmm.
So it is possible. I mean, I've seen guys grow autos. My auto's in the ground. Farmers in Cannabis did one in their greenhouse, and the thing was a monster. I reckon they probably got about 200 or 300 grams out of that one plant, which is insane. Yeah.
And that's always what I'm fighting for, to say, um these autos, they're just so fast. Like I was saying to this one compliance officer of mine that comes to check out my site, and I was like, I cannot put a photo in front of an auto ever, because this thing, it's like a supercar, 0 to 100 now. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to add any new wheels or new whatever in the engine, nothing. Just boom, put it on the race, let it go. So you're talking about the innovation and the science behind some of these groundbreaking things that are happening, like in the Netherlands, I think you're saying now. But do you have your eyes on some more groundbreaking studies or innovation that's happening in the cannabis industry around autoflowers? Is there anything that you have your eye on? Anything you're working on? Something like that?
Look, I'm always working on something. I've got a nice cheese. I've got a nice grapefruit that I'm playing with. I got Zombie Kush from, Zombie Kush, I think is from Ripper. That won a couple of awards. I'm working on that. And I'm working on Alien versus Triangle from Jomanji Genetics. That also won a couple of awards recently. But what I'm really excited for is the MNRA side of cannabis growing. Like we're going down to a cellular level now, and we're splicing cells and we're adding flavonoids, terpenes, just certain characteristics from other plant kingdoms into our cannabis. So yes, okay, they're starting to little bit of a GMO, the weed, which is not really, might not be a great thing for us and our health. We don't know yet, but I mean they're achieving things we never thought we could achieve, and that's essentially how we've gotten all these amazing flavors. These
Yeah.
flavors weren't bred into cannabis over time. I mean, this was scientists and guys with big money going down to an MNRA level on the cellular level and modifying the plants there in order to get them to a state where they can give us these grape flavors and these banana flavors and that stuff. So that to me is probably the most exciting part of the cannabis development right now is like what's going on a cellular level, and how can we modify this and how can we make it better. Can we take it on a cellular level and target specific things like hungriness or sleepiness or depression or whatever, like can we modify this thing to be more effective for us as human beings? That's
Yes.
really got me like an exciting time right now.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, there's pros and cons to all of this. Like you said, we don't know like what genetically modifying cannabis on a psychoactive level, what it can do for us humans, for the endocannabinoid system, like what does GMO weed do for us? What does splicing things using the CRISPR technique, like you're saying, MMRA? But this is literally where we are right now with science and plant science, and they're really taking it into the lab now. They're really cutting it up. It's becoming more legal everywhere across the world. I mean, now the Germans now they have it in the lab on a legal level. So it's like the engineering that's about to happen. I don't even understand where we're gonna go now, but it's
Yeah.
very, very interesting.
No, I reckon the next 20 years is going to be so exciting for us in this industry. We're a baby. It's essentially
Yeah.
what we are. We're a baby in an industry, and it's time for us to grow. And I can't wait to see us when we're a teenager.
Yeah, man. Facts. Jumanji, this was so insightful because you have such a deep passion and knowledge for autos, and I'm sure that I didn't ask all the questions that people might want to ask. Usually, after the casts, people come back like, "Oh, you should have asked him this. Oh, you should have asked them this." So, I'm hoping that we're also gonna get a lot of people that are gonna be like, "Oh no, you must go deeper on that one," and you know, you can definitely just extrapolate. So if you have any final thoughts and comments, please can you just share for the people that are watching?
All right. One of the most important things I need to just say out there is there's a misconception about autoflowers. Because the theory states that an autoflower can run on 24 hours light, essentially any light cycle, people try to do this. However, plants, like humans, are living things. So if you as a person don't sleep for 30 days, how are you going to function? Are you going to be performing at your best, at your optimal? No. So as sleep is essential for human beings, sleep is just as essential for autoflowers. They need at least 6 hours of sleep every night for them to grow to the best of their ability. At night time, there's certain exchanges happening within the plant that does not occur during the day. So the night period is just as important as the day period.
Hmm. That is very interesting, and that's very key take-home message because people assume that an autoflower doesn't need light and it works with 24 hours of light. So thank you very much for sharing that knowledge to say the plant also has to sleep because there's some chemical exchanges and hormonal exchanges that are happening within the plant while it's dark.
Mm.
So it's important.
Yeah.
Chomanji, thank you very much for sharing, brother. Like I said, I know that these questions that I asked are not going to be the end of it. So for anybody else that's interested, I'm definitely going to leave Jumanji's details, everything about where you can get the autos, the Instagram where you can also hit him up right in the like underneath here in the description. And I just appreciate you so much, brother. Thank you.
No, thank you, Blanca. Thank you for inviting me, bro. Thank you for a lovely chat, and thank you for just making the whole process so friendly and easy for me.
Yeah, man. Shout out. We're really trying to break the stigma, and you're one of the people at the forefront, brother.
Well, thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Okay, no, away, everybody.
All right, listen. Have a goeie dag, everybody.
Have a great day, everyone.